Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Legends of the Spire. Thanks for coming along. It's a bit of a different episode this week in that I'm trying something a little bit different. So just this week, I launched a limited edition scarf and signed print that I've done in conjunction with Fans Favourite, who makes scarves, with Lidbury Draws, who does football prints, and with Tony Lormor, one of our previous guests on the podcast and Chesterfield goal-scoring hero. Now, the limited edition scarf that we've done is based on the 1995 playoff winning Chesterfield shirt. And we're doing it all in aid of Tony Lormor's Brightside CIC, which is a lymphoma support group. This is what the scarf looks like. So we've incorporated the original sponsorship, and we've got the crazy triangles and things like that. So just 100 of these made, and they are on sale now. It's £15. At least £5 goes to Tony Lormor's support group. And then we also have a signed print that you'll get with it too. So what we're doing now for this week's episode is that I've collated loads of the interviews that I've done with players that played in that 94-95 season to look back on the main part of that season, but then mostly the semi-final against Mansfield and also the final at Wembley against Bury. So what we'll do is we'll start off with part one. So part one, we're going to be looking at the main season as a whole before we get to that Mansfield semi-final. So we're going to start off with the gaffer, John Duncan, talking about that squad that he assembled at that time. And then we'll go on to talk to Jamie Hewitt. He was obviously the first person that I had on the podcast, and he'll talk about how the team really found form and momentum during that incredible season.
Well, we did all right the first part of the season, but we just slipped a little bit. And we made two signings. Then we did it. Well, we signed Lormor and Robinson, and we also did swap deal for Tony Bryan and Nicky Law, and Jamie Dave Moss for Tony Bryan. Mm-hmm. And all those players that came to us came off and really helped us to go and move into another gear, and it worked out fantastically the second half of the season.
Yeah. Was there a certain type of player that you thought you needed? Because I think when we were talking to Nicky Law, he was talking about how maybe you needed someone like him that would come in who was kind of a personality or his mentality towards winning. Was there something you were really looking for?
Well, yeah, I think that was fair enough. There was nobody that took on that role before he came. But I was fortunate as well. I signed Laurie Madden, who was a great signing for us. So we suddenly, from not having, any real, what would you say, stature and leadership at the back, we suddenly had Nicky Law and Laurie Madden. And Darren Carr also developed with them. Mm-hmm. And Lee Rogers as well, who I knew was a good player anyway. And we suddenly had a real solid backbone to the team that could allow us to go and play, three forwards, which was really fantastic for us at that point.
Like a classic example of momentum, isn't it? That season, yeah. We kind of finished, hit form at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we were poor for the team we got. We were probably poor, or just jelly, I don't know. But we were poor for the first few months of the season till November time, which culminated in the Mansfield game. To be fair, strangely enough, the Mansfield. I think it was Mansfield away where we got beat. It might have been 4-2. And we were all obviously, it don't matter what sort of season you're having, whether you're top of the league, bottom of the league, whatever, you lose to Mansfield, it's terrible. And it was terrible for us then, because you always want to beat Mansfield, you want to beat Mansfield for the fans and for yourself. But we got beat there and say we weren't doing very well, and we had an inquest in the dressing room at Mansfield. where John saying, look, all of you say what you think, we'll say what we think, and we need to get it all out in the open. It was very, very forward. That John was a bit beyond his time, I think, where he wanted all the players to chip in and say he wanted them to work the problem out a lot of the time, not just give them the answer himself and or what he thought was the answer. So we had a good discussion. All the senior pros, obviously Nicky Law and that, had a good talk about it, and everybody had the 2 penneth worth. And then we went on, I think we changed the system to a 5 at the back. And we went on a great run. I don't think we lost again till Carlisle, which was the penultimate game of the season.
Hi again, Dave here. So I hope you enjoyed listening to John Duncan and Jamie Hewitt there. We're going to follow up now with David Reeves. Now, David Reeves didn't play for Chesterfield at that time. He obviously came to us a little bit later, but Jamie Hewitt mentioned that Carlisle match, and David Reeves was a member of that Carlisle squad and even scored the goals that meant that we had to go through the playoffs and face Mansfield. So you're going to hear from David Reeves now, and then after David Reeves, you'll hear from Tom Curtis for the first time. He'll be talking about the team spirit of the club when he came in. Obviously, he signed for us as a part-time player while he was still at university. So he touches on the great welcome that he had, really, when he came to the squad as a part-time player. And a lot of fans, when I said I was talking to you, said that I had to mention the goals that he scored for Carlisle against Chesterfield that then condemned us to a playoff meeting with Mansfield that then turned out rosy for us because it was a great old time. But do you remember those?
Can't remember them goals, Dave. No, can't remember. No, I think, yeah, listen, I think obviously I didn't know at that time that I was going to be signing for Chesterfield a few years later. But it was that we'd won the league on the Saturday and I scored against Colchester away. So we all, there was like 300 Carlisle fans travelling down to Colchester from Carlisle. It's like 7 hours, wherever it is. And then we won the league. We won 1-0. Literally went in off my shoulder, the goal, and we won the league. And it was brilliant. So the manager, Mick Wadsworth, like literally said it was resting 7 players from that team for the Chesterfield game. So it was all set up for a Chesterfield win. He literally said to me, because we only had 1 game left on the Saturday of the season. He said, "Reevesy, do you want to rest?" And I went, "I'm not having the rest. You know, I had 18 league goals, and I got a bonus for 20 league goals, and I wanted to try. I mean, there was 2 games left. Thinking I want to try and score me 2 goals, and it was literally like we had Tony Elliott in goal who hadn't played the game all season, who were it just happened to have one of the best goalkeeping performances I've ever seen at any level on that night. You've got Kevin Davis missing sitters, and then you've got I think we literally had 2-3 efforts on goal, and it was so early in. And when we got there, we couldn't believe the crowds. Obviously, we knew that they had to win to get up, and people on the houses, on the roofs of the houses, watching the game, and it was like we'd already won. I remember Warren Aspinall, who played for us, he was still drunk from the Saturday before. So it was like, there's no way we're going to get battered tonight here. Anyways, like when I remember my goals, it was probably one of the best goals I scored that season, first goal. I can't remember who we run behind. Did Sean Dyche play in that game?
I don't know.
Nicky Law.
Yeah, probably.
Might have been Nicky Law. Literally, I remember running behind, and I just hit it on the volley, and it just dipped in the top corner of the keeper. And then I literally run if you watch me, if anyone watches that game, when I scored that goal, I've run to the director's box at Chesterfield, and I was doing that to Michael Knighton, basically, and he's shaking his head like that, and then obviously the second goal, it was a really good header from a free kick, I think, wasn't it, or a corner? I can't remember, because they equalised. They equalised, didn't they?
Yeah.
1-1. Did Kevin Davis score? Was it? I can't remember who scored for them, but it was, yeah. And then I scored again, and I thought, well, we might get a draw out of it because they're definitely going to score. And then obviously they got a penalty, didn't they? And Tony Elliott saved the penalty, didn't he? And it was like when we won, we celebrated like we just won the league again. It was, it was that, and that was what that team was about. It was like literally made 7 changes from the team on Saturday that we just won the league, and it paid off. But unknowingly to us, like Chesterfield get Mansfield in the final. Did you get them in the semi-final or final?
Yeah, in the
semi, and you beat them in the semi, didn't you? So so that I always say to the Chelsea fans, I got you what you wanted really that year. Because if you would have had the choice, you wouldn't have wanted to go straight up anyway, would you? You'd want to get in the playoffs and beat Mansfield twice, and then get up in the playoff final.
Yeah, and did you get? And you got what you wanted as well, did you? Did you get your 20 goals?
I got my second goal. That was the header, and I've literally run to the director's box again, and the chairman's just clapping me. And in the dressing room, he said to Mick Woods, "Mick, you should never have played Reeves tonight."
The lads at Chesterfield were the best lads, the best group that I have played with. So they were such great guys. So just really, really good. They were, I think that as a group, and if you weren't a good guy in that group, you wouldn't stay in the group for very long. You'd get sort of ushered to the side. So I suppose it helped that I was doing okay. So I was in the team, and the team was successful. So there wasn't anyone saying, "Flipping it, what's he doing turning up on Friday?" And just playing. It was more, I'd get some stick, but it was just that, it was stick, and they'd have a laugh and a joke and that sort of thing, and I'd have a bit of a laugh and a joke back. And I always feel, me personally, I always feel like I can get on with most people. So I think I was able to get on with most people in the dressing room, and when I trained in the summer holidays, I'd give as good as I could get. I gained a little bit of respect on the training pitch. I was a competitive player. Someone kicked me, I'd kick them back twice as hard. So I think I gained respect from the group. So it was twofold really. So I think I had respect from the group, but also the group themselves were top guys, were really, really good guys, and understood the situation.
And for the final part of part 1, we're going to hear from a couple of the forwards. First up, you'll hear from Andy Morris, and then following up from that, it'll be Tony Lormor, who will take you through some of his favourite goals, including that amazing long-range effort and belly slide versus Warsaw. And the run that the team went on, obviously after
Tony Lormor
in that second half of the season, yeah.
Yeah, Tony Lormor signed. We never lost again, did we?
Yeah, it was incredible, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was 20 something games, 23 or 24 games. Tony Lormor signed. I don't know if it was one of those windows or he just signed out of the blue. I can't quite remember what it was. And then we never lost. We'd win 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. And it was just like that all the time. And like if you look at the run, it was an unbelievable run. Just didn't lose. And it just kept going and going. And obviously that propelled us all the way up. And the confidence that gave us coming through.
And you scored a great goal against Walsall, which is still on YouTube, and has a great celebration at the end of it. But which were your favourite goals that kind of season during that run?
Well, obviously and there's games of importance really. I always remember, I think we played Darlington away. I think we won 1-0 at Darlington away, and I'm sure it must have been Easter weekend, so I'm sure it was a Monday afternoon. And I think it was like a clearance. And I remember it was just this fight ball with the centre half and goalkeeper, and the three of us came together at the edge of the box. And I just remember getting my big toe on it. And it went in, it dribbled in. Now, in the scheme of things, it's a forgettable goal, but at that time it kept us on the run. It kept us in the pack, and it was such an important game and an important goal. Obviously, the goal at Warsaw, we were chasing Warsaw to get in the third. The story behind, and this is a true story, is the Warsaw goal. Well, in fact, funny enough, we travelled down in the morning of the game of Warsaw, and I always remember was about 4 or 5 of us all had flu, and we were like a patched up team, to be honest. And then so the goal against Warsaw, obviously John Howard came in. I think he only came in the week before. He was playing couldn't get a game for Rotherham's reserves, and all of a sudden he was, I think he gets the first goal. No, he got the third goal, but my goal came in and I miscontrolled it, and it was like a muddy, bobbly pitch, and I went to control it. It went over my foot, so obviously it wrong-footed their defender, and I used to never shoot from that range, and it was just one of their moments. I just thought, I'm hitting this. I think I was frustrated by miscontrolling, and I thought I wellied it really, and then the celebration, it was dead funny because again, when you remember things, I remember sliding on my tummy, and then I remember thinking there was a concrete like edge to the end of the pitch, and I just thought, oh my God, I'm not stopping. I just see myself heading for this concrete thing, and eventually I just stopped in time. But it was such a big game for us, really. We put everything into it. There was a little bit of needle between us and Warsaw and stuff like that. So, and then that must have been like from the first game early in the season. But so yeah, that's how that goal came about.
Yeah, and then it didn't lose until Carlisle, which is kind of funny, really, because it ended up being David Reeves who kind of came when you went, and he scored the goals in that match, didn't he?
Well, it was a funny night all around, because I don't even remember, I missed the penalty. And so, yeah, obviously we knew Reeves. Carlisle were flying. I think Carlisle were top. They won the league, and Reeves, he's got a lot of goals. So, by this time, we needed to win, I think. We needed to win to give us a chance going in the last game of the season to Pip Warsaw. And then so I got brought down for the penalty with about 10 minutes to go, and I remember falling on the ball and picking it up. Now the week before I'd scored a penalty, so I picked it up and walked to the spot, and Nicky Lowe came up to us and said, "Oh, I'll take it." And I was like, and I remember saying to him, "Oh no, I'll be fine." And I thought, well, why is the centre half wanting to take a penalty, So he just said, "All right, yeah, fine, you take it," So I remember taking it and obviously missed it, or the keeper saved it, and I went out for a corner. And even before the corner was taken, I was subbed. John took me off, and I sat next to him, and he just said saying, "You don't take penalties. You won't be taking any more penalties now." I'm centre forward, and I went, "Oh, well, fair enough." And what I didn't realise was Nicky took penalties for like the last 5 years. Never missed one. I never missed one in his life. And what had happened was the week before, Nicky was injured. Nicky had been saved for that game, you see, or the Saturday before. So I never realised he took penalties. And then obviously, so at the end of the game, we were devastated, really, because we knew a chance of going straight up, we'd lost. So that was a Tuesday night. We came in on a Thursday, and we trained. And John sat me down and just said, like, "Look, Nicky takes penalties. He always has done." I says, I never knew nothing about it, And John says, "Well, look, I don't want you taking any more penalties." So I went, "Well, fair enough." So then Saturday comes around. We had Colchester at home, so we knew we were in the playoffs. Bit of a dead rubber to a certain extent. 3 minutes in the game, big man gets brought down for a penalty. So Nicky wasn't playing because obviously he was being saved for the Mansfield match. At the time it was the playoffs, so we thought it was going to be Mansfield. And I didn't even look at John. I just picked the ball up and thought, I've got to take it. It's sort of like redemption, if I never take this penalty, then I'll worry about the rest of my life. And I ran up and just smashed as hard as I possibly could. And I even miskicked it. It goes straight in the bottom corner. It looks a great penalty, but it was actually a missed kick. And funnily enough, I took penalties after that for Chesterfield after if Nicky wasn't about, and all the other clubs I played at. And that night at Carlisle was the only penalty I missed in 16 years.
Did John Duncan say anything after you'd scored that penalty or not?
At Colchester?
Yeah.
No, he never said that. He didn't substitute me. I didn't look over. I just ran back the halfway line with my back to him. I wouldn't look across, and he never said anything. And I think he was a centre forward, and I think he just knows. As a centre forward, you want to score goals and you want to be involved in games. Like I spoke even when I was a kid, And he probably knew it was redemption, just to clear, any thoughts. Because, I in the rest of my life, I was going to take a penalty, but, so yeah, it's just something to get out of my head and stuff like that. And then obviously that leads us into the Mansfield match.
Losing the Carlisle game in hindsight was a good thing to do.
Well, it's funny. I say I've done a couple of talks with dinners with the club, and I've sort of said, missing that penalty was probably from my personal point of view. Because everybody, bar the FA Cup semi-final games, everyone will talk about the Wembley goal, on the Wembley day, the goal against Mansfield. So yeah, from my personal point of view, it was the best ending that could have happened, really, because missing the penalty at Carlisle and then we didn't get promoted would have been, I would have had egg on my face for quite a long time after that.
Yeah. So here we are with part 2. We've done that main part of the season, and now we're heading into the semi-final against Mansfield. A match remembered for all the right reasons for us. Obviously, no better way to win a semi-final than against your arch rivals. First up, we are going to hear from John Duncan, who again will talk about those Mansfield derbies, and also from Jules, who played quite a lot of that season, but unfortunately got injured just before the end of it, so didn't get to take part in those matches. But great to hear from him too. Here we go. And obviously, as Chesterfield manager, you've had a lot of Mansfield derbies, but it was probably the biggest one at the end of that season, the bonkers game, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was a classic. I thought actually when we won that was it. We'd done enough, but woke up the next morning and realised I had to beat Bury in the final before we were clear. It was discipline, wasn't it, really? Which is what we had. That's the other factor that I didn't mention before. You can't get booked, you can't get sent off, you don't go to ground and give penalties away. None of that. You stay on your feet, no dissent, and nobody loses the temper. You need 11 men on the pitch all the time. And that's what won it for us in that semi-final. We just kept calm under pressure, whereas they probably didn't.
I think we had a strong side. I think Carlisle was always the rivals within that league, and John don't even remember. And when I spoke to him last, he thought I'd played most of that season. I went, well, I didn't play for about the last 10 games of the season because obviously I had this role as a man marker at times. If they had a decent player, John had just had me marking. It's Rod Thomas, played them away at their place. And I think within the first 5 minutes, I went over on my ankle, coming at half time, and basically my ankle was like a balloon. And Kev said, just strap it up. So strapped it up. I think I played for about 80 minutes, try to chase Rod Thomas around the pitch. And obviously that was basically the end of my season, after that game. Although I did manage to get back just before we got to, the playoff final, and I was in the squad, but I sat on the bench, but I wasn't one of the subs. But I came back through a bit too late. But I think we had obviously Phil Robinson. We had a really good side. Obviously Nicky, the captain, very, very, very strong side. I was happy for the team, but you gutted for yourself. I remember sat in the stand. I was injured, sat in the stand when we played Mansfield. In the away, then I think Rob Ost broke out and scored, and obviously it was like a cauldron at home as well, wasn't it, when we played them at Saltergate? And you obviously sat there, you feel the atmosphere, but you think to yourself, it'd have been nice to playing the playoff like semi-final, to get into the final, because even though we won the final, I think the semi-final, because of obviously local rivals, was in my head, that's what I remember most. about that season is this semi-finals against Mansfield.
I've heard a few players say that it was like the day after the Mansfield semi that they were like, oh, actually, we've got to play a final next.
Yeah.
Feel like a final, but I suppose, because I was going to ask you that, whether it was a bit disappointing, kind of not being involved in those games. Because obviously you're a team player and you're happy for the squad, but on a personal level, it must be a bit.
Yeah, it's always disappointing, especially you're playing your local rivals as well, aren't you? In the semi-finals, and then obviously the finals at Wembley. To miss out playing at Wembley. And I think even Kev. So I'm reading with Kev. Kev didn't even play. He came on, didn't he? So he didn't even start, because that's how John was. Even though you might play well the week before, or you've been playing well for the last, you could be man at match for 3 games on the trot, but then he'd be looking at the opposition and thinking, actually, I need to tweak it this way or tweak it that way. Or if I was playing at fullback, if there's somebody 6 foot odd, he's not going to play me at fullback, because if they'll be launching balls to them, or if they had a quick left winger, I'd be playing on the right back, not left back. So he kind of adapted and changed, because that's how John was. So you knew even if you were playing well. I remember one time, I think it's pre-season. I remember one time he had a team. Like we did a practice match on the Friday. Mm-hmm. This with a team, and literally on the Saturday you got there, the whole team had changed. Everyone's like looking at each other. But then you think, like, if you're not in team, you're disappointed. But he all seemed to get it right. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He all seemed to get it right. You think to yourself, what is he doing here? And then the team would go out and win.
Next up, we're going to hear from Jamie Hewitt, Nicky Law, and Andy Morris. Now, the middle interview with Nicky Law, I found really interesting when I had a chat with him, talking about putting his foot through the door, raging at half-time. And Andy Morris, who's third in these set of interviews as well, also talks about some of the hefty challenges that were thrown in that match. Was it nice to play Mansfield in that kind of... Because obviously it ramps up even more pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah. It puts you under pressure more because you play Mansfield, and it was a bit of a tough one for us, because we'd had such a good run. I mean, as you say, momentum and confidence in football. We used to go out in that run in games, and we just never thought about losing. We never thought we'd get beat. We always thought we were going to get a result, if not win the game. We were disappointed if we drew. Walsall were up there in the league, and we went to their place and destroyed them 3-1. And every game we were just so confident. It wasn't arrogance. It was just, we just didn't think we were going to lose. We just had the momentum behind us. And then to lose to Carlisle, who won the league, and miss out on automatic promotion, really, because we should have taken probably second spot in that league. Deflate us a little bit, actually, coming into the Mansfield game, because then we had the last game of the season was Colchester, where we just got 2-2. And that was at home. So we'd had a defeat and a draw. So then people are saying, well, they haven't won in 2, which isn't a massive thing. But after how we'd gone from Christmas time, December time before, we were a little bit deflated. And then obviously you look at the playoffs, and we were a lot of points clear of Mansfield that season, double figures, easy. I think it might have been 17, it was 17, something like that. It was a lot of points clear of Mansfield. So we're thinking, well, we deserve to be obviously promoted more than Mansfield, but we know football doesn't work like that in the playoffs, and we knew it'd be a tough game, and it was a pressure game for us, real pressure game, because 1, you don't want to lose to Mansfield, and 2, you want to get what you think you deserve, which was promotion that season. Mm-hmm. And I think we got a 1-1 draw down at their place. And then it was the big night at Saltergate, which I think it was 17th of May, which actually was my birthday.
Present.
Yeah, well, it was a good present in the end.
And going to the end of that playoff season, obviously, big matches at the end of that season. The Mansfield 5-2 is obviously really fondly remembered.
The best game I've ever played it.
It was you involved obviously both sides of the pitch, weren't you, that game? What are your memories of that game?
Yeah, massive. The most enjoyable. I can honestly sit here now and say, in all the games that I played, I don't know, probably 600 games, that more than the Wembley final game was, and I had other promotions, but that was the best game. That was the best game ever. Night under the lights. They should never have been in it. You know, we were way in front of them. I think what was it, like 13 points clear of them, or something like that. They should never have been there. But by what the playoffs did was always give you a chance. And we were disappointed to have lost out automatic anyway. And then we knew going into it, and I'm trying to think who the others were now. There was us and Bury, obviously, Mansfield. I'm trying to think of the fourth team. But it doesn't matter anyway. But and we knew that we got Mansfield. You know, the love for Mansfield at Chesterfield is non-existent, and it, you know, in a nice way, in any sort of football way. It was in a good way. And then we came to our place like that night, and that was dead. Everyone was up for that. The crowd were up for that. And like I say, going out there and the noise that, you know, the crowd generated that night was just unbelievable. And then for me personally, you know, I'd had a, like I said, I thought I'd have had a steady season really, and then I nearly blew it in that one where I tried to be a little bit clever. I think it was Wilkinson won it. No, on the first, was it the first goal? I think I was picking, I'm trying to think, I was marking from the corner. And I think Andy Morris blocked me off. He blocked me off, you know. I think the lad I'm marking had run around the outside of Andy. And I tried to get there, probably a bit down to me as well. My positioning was probably wrong. And then I ended up, Andy blocked me off and I couldn't get there. And that was one of the goals. And I think the second one, or the other way round, it may have been that way, was the ball over the top. And I'd got it all day. And I was just going, and I was just waiting for him to like come on the side of me so that I could come out the other side. And I can actually blame the pitch for that, because it was bubbled up and I missed it, and he went through and smashed it in. And I'm like, wow, you know, senior player as well, you know, that could probably be accounted for 2 goals, which a game of that magnitude and that importance is probably not great. And I remember coming off at half time, and I went down the tunnel and put my foot straight through the gym door at the end, and I was just raging, you know. And I think Kevin Randler said, look, come on, it don't matter, it's nothing, you know, we'll get it back, come on, it's what you do now. And yeah. And we went in and we regrouped, and I think then we came out, didn't we? And then they got the sending off. They had a sending off and an handball 2 sent off in the end, did they?
2 sent off, yeah.
Yeah, but we'd have won it anyway. We'd have won it. We were too much from that night. I think that was a really impressive performance from everybody. And then obviously to get a couple of goals in it as well was a bit of a sort of recompense for the 2 hours that I'd made. So, you know, and we won the game, and that was just an amazing night. That was a truly amazing night. And, you know, I remember all the jubilations after, and then, you know, when the next day when it comes, you're getting ready for the final then.
Because unlike now, John used to chop and change the side quite a lot. So I think the away game at Mansfield, me and Des Walker were in the stands because we weren't playing at all. We weren't in the 16, 17 man squad or whatever it was at the time. And we're looking down, and like all players, you're just slagging everybody else off because you want to be down there. So me and him are like flipping it, like, we're not getting this side and stuff like that. And I think Phil Robinson burst through and got an equaliser to make it 1-1. And then come the home leg, John Duncan just changed it around completely again. And I was playing, Des was playing, and then played at Wembley.
Yeah.
So
it's funny really, because the semi-final in some ways is remembered more than the final in some ways.
Well, yeah, the semi-final game is my favourite game at Saltgate, hands down. The atmosphere, beating Mansfield as we did, and just the overall game as it was, because it was to and froing a little bit because they had a decent team, to be fair, and we'd worked on marking Paul Holland at corners. He was the main man at corners, so our captain had him. Nicky had him at corners. First corner, boom, Paul, he scores. Everybody just looked at Nicky and just walked off because you couldn't really say out to Nicky. He just ended up. Sorry,
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, he was just effing in Jeffer, and then lo and behold, he comes and scores 2 goals later on in the game, and I think if you saw one of the tackles, I think Darren Carr did a tackle on their centre forward. I don't even know how he got up. I think he took him at the knee. Seriously, I used to cringe when I used to see Darren tackle, I swear to God. And I don't know how I did it. I don't even know how I stayed on the pitch, to be fair.
And finally, we're going to hear a view from the opposition. Now, Steve Wilkinson did come and play for Chesterfield later on in his career, but at that time in 1994-95, he was playing for Mansfield, actually scored a hat-trick against us early on in the season. But he was on the other side of that 5-2. And I spoke to him about what he thought was the difference between the two teams. I've spoken to lots of players who played for Chesterfield for that 5-2, but it's quite kind of interesting to get a perspective from the opposition, I suppose. Kind of what went wrong?
Well,
kind of lost their heads a bit.
The 2 sendings off cost us, because I think at 2-2, when we went into extra time, I think because we then scored 2 away goals, we were in the driving seat. But I think Kevin Lampkin and Mark Peters both got sent off in extra time, and we ended up finishing the game with 9 men. And yeah, that's where we lost it. It was just like one of those situations. Yeah, I suppose young. And one of the things that I did notice when I then moved to Chesterfield 2 years ago, very experienced players, whereas actually that group at Mansfield, I think I was sort of one of the relatively older ones at 25 at that point. And the rest of them were all in their early 20s. And if you're new to that level of performance, because I'd obviously had promotion with Mansfield prior to that, Chesterfield had got a series of players who'd been through some great times, but all very experienced. And I think it showed on that evening when push came to shove, those young players just couldn't keep their heads.
It's the 27th of May, 1995, and Chesterfield have made it to Wembley in a playoff final against Bury. There's just under 23,000 fans there, so by no means full, but a Wembley trip is a Wembley trip, and a Wembley win is a Wembley win. We'll start off by hearing from Nicky Law and Tom Curtis, who spoke about how the game was kind of a bit of an anticlimax after those Mansfield matches, but how a Wembley win and playing on that hallowed turf was such a special occasion. And like I say, a lot of the fans remember that Mansfield game more than the Bury game as well. So I think it's probably one of those things where the players and the fans experience.
Yeah, you come out of Wembley, you're at National Stadium, an amazing place, a privilege to play there. And you come out and there's no one there. Do you know what I mean? There's no one there. It's empty, as many as is in there, which I can't remember what the crowd was now, probably 20,000, something like that. It's empty, and it's a sapper. It's a sapper. I don't know. Like I've heard people saying that. I don't think it's so much the pitch. I just think it's the occasion. It's the occasion. You've gone there. You've played 44, 46 games to get there, and this is it. This is at the end of this game. There's going to be a winner and a loser, and it's just an emotional sapper that I think that drains you as well. And by the end, you are literally running on memory. You're on memory. It was an hot day as well. I remember the pitch is massive. And the way we played, which was quite an energetic way, it was a tough game, but one that we won, and one that will live in the memory of the football club.
And then, like you touched upon with the playoff playoff win and getting promotion. That was that must have been a great experience with that happening kind of early in your career.
Yeah, I was still at university, so I can remember all my mates from university came and watched. I don't know what the crowd was. It was about 15,000. It wasn't that many, but we were at Wembley, the old Wembley, and it was I guess it was one of the first times I played on a pitch that, you know, it was so manicured. It was unbelievable. I can remember walking on it the day before, and you'd make footprints on the pitch because you turn the grass the opposite way to the way the roller had sort of laid the grass down on the surface. So it was a brilliant experience. As with most of those big games, I can't really remember much about the games, if I'm going to be honest. It all ends up as a bit of a blur. I can remember being tired and not playing that well, the game not being that good. But we scored, I think, off two long throws, two Nicky long throws. I think Robbo scored. I think Tony Lormor scored. And then we were fairly comfortable for the rest of the game. The one thing I do remember is the morning of the game. We played a back three. We played a 3-5-2 all year. We've been really successful, and we'd won the last. I think we had a run towards the end of the season where we were absolutely flying. We won loads of games, and then on the morning of the playoff final, the gaffer says, "Right, we're playing 4-4-2." So, well, we've not done this all year. So we played a different formation in the final than we did for the rest of the year. A lad called Des Hazel came in and played left midfield, and then he left straight after. I think he played maybe two games, but he played in the playoff final. And then Billy Stewart as well. He played in goal. So I think the goalies win. I think Jed got injured. Mick Leonard got injured in that season. So we had two new players in the team for that particular game. And we were playing a totally new system at Wembley in the biggest game of all our careers. So we managed to see it through. So yeah, it's good.
What were you all whispering to each other as players when he comes out and says you're playing 4-4-2?
I don't know I can't really remember if we whispered or not. We just got on with it. You know, I don't think it was like we really. I mean, John. We all gave John a bit of not a stick, but we had everyone had a really good relationship with John. I mean, he's the best manager I worked with by a million miles. And I think even now, again, as a coach, you look back to some of the stuff he did, and he did get some stick towards the end of his time at Chesterfield, but he was a genius as a manager, a genius as a tactician, and a genius in terms of man management. He would really get the best out of everybody. And he'd always be able to pick the team to suit the needs of to suit the strengths of the individuals in the group. And I think that is, that's coaching, that's management, that's what the best people can do. And he was always able to do that. So there was a lot of trust there, I think, between the players and the manager. And he would have rationalised it. I can't remember how, but he would have rationalised it in a way that we all thought, yeah, it's a pretty good idea. He would have got buy-in, definitely.
So, one of the stories I've heard most about this 1994-95 season is the story of John Duncan changing it from a back three to a back four on the day of the match. Tom Curtis was just speaking about it now and the trust that they had. So here we are with the man himself, John Duncan, who's going to talk about why he decided to change that formation. And then Lee Rogers and Jamie Hewitt, two instrumental parts of that clean sheet that day, with their views on that whole swap from the back three to the back four. And the final against Bury, you actually changed it, didn't you? Was it the morning?
Yeah. Well, Kevin Davis had been ill, and he played at Mansfield, but he didn't play in the return game, the second leg at Saltergate. But he said he was all right, but he wasn't. Well, had to make a decision, and I just felt the three up. And the three at the back, three defenders at the back, was just losing its sparkle a little bit, possibly through the Kevin Davis not being as energetic when he got ill, that type of thing. And I just felt that against the better teams, we may just struggle a little bit again with the three at the back and the three at the front. But it was a tough decision. You know, Kevin's saying to me, look, if you go and play a 4-4-2 against Bury, they've played it all season. Why are you going to be better than them? And it was a good argument. But I did feel that the three at the back had lost its impetus for one reason or another. And I changed it, changed it. Well, we changed it in the two game, the semi-final, second leg and the final. Although it was a tough call for the final because Davis was fit again, you know.
Yeah, and that shows a lot of belief in your players, doesn't it? That you can go to them and say, right, we're changing it, and to trust them to then, you know, click it.
Yeah, but we did work on it, and I remember working on the two systems. Well, we knew the three at the back anyway by that time, but I worked on the four at the back as well. But I didn't actually make a decision until the Saturday morning. It was a late call on it.
And some goals from long throws in that match. We've had a bit of a long throw renaissance recently, even all the big
teams and all that are doing it now. Yeah, we used to get stick for doing it. Nicky was good at it. Yeah, and we had a wee system where we had players going in the right direction. And Nick 2 goals in the final of it. Yeah.
A promotion season against Bury, so that must have been really nice then to go to Wembley and win.
Brilliant! It's and to get there again, twice, in your career is fantastic. But I really enjoyed this one because it just we were soaking it up, and the week before, and you're talking about it. And I mean, the thing is, it was strange and all at that time was that we were set up the week before to play like 5 at the back, sort of three centre halves, sweeper and 2 fullbacks, and it meant that Dave Moss fitted into that team, who I think were the top scorer at the time. And we went down and we were training on the Friday, and we'd set up as normal, done all the training, done all the set pieces against and everything. And it's same again on the Saturday morning. Came down for breakfast in the hotel. Sat there with Jamie, and Dunks came over, sat outside of us, his cup of tea and his orange juice, and he just went, "Yeah, boys, think we're going to go back to back 4," and we were like looking at him like, "Is this what? We've done all week, set up to go as a 5." And I think as soon as he said that, we knew Dave wouldn't be involved, Dave Moss, because we played around that, where he sat in the middle. And obviously it was devastating for Dave, because I think he was say top scorer at the time. But he just changed to the back 4, and touch wood, it was worked on the day. It was brilliant. I mean, like I said, but I think that game, obviously my family were stood up in the stand. I could see them waving at them, but I just felt more relaxed on that day, and it was a good game, quite intense. I think they put us under a lot of pressure first, sort of 20 minutes and all that. But yeah, just fantastic result in the end, and just made everything better. And end of the day, you got that win at Wembley, you got promoted, and it's just fantastic feeling. Can't take that away from you.
Yeah, and have you still got your medal?
Still got my medal. So still got my kit, full kit. So, but yeah, just amazing day, you never forget that sort of thing, even though it's 20 odd years ago, but can't take it away from you, that can they?
Absolutely. Does it still fit, the kit?
Just I think I've put a few pounds on that, but yeah, just about, yeah.
Sort of when I got interested in football, I think the first FA Cup final I can remember watching was Fulham. Was it Fulham West Ham? Something like that, 74, 75, one of those years. And in those days, the FA Cup final was a full day on telly. We used to be filming outside the football team hotel. Players used to sit right out the bedroom window and talk to the press, and you got the coach down, you saw the Twin Towers. And for me, obviously, wanting to play for Chesterfield, wanting to play on Saltergate, but then ultimately getting the chance to play at Wembley was phenomenal. It was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and it probably sounds like a bit of a silly question, but does as someone that's like been to Wembley to obviously watched Chesterfield. Does it, as a player, does it feel a lot bigger? Like, does the pitch seem so much bigger? Because obviously Saltergate is a lot smaller than Wembley. You know, do you get that sense of everything just being much bigger?
I think the first time we went, we went under Paul Hart, 1990, and we went down the night before, and we stayed the night after. And sort of, me personally, obviously I was younger then or whatever, but it was a bit of a mistake, not by the football club and not by the manager, but because when we went the second time, we went 2 days before, and we had a tour of Wembley on the Thursday. You get a tour in the afternoon, you can go around, look at the dressing rooms you're in. We didn't do this the first time. So when you get there, you sort of, wow, this is Wembley. And you're a bit in awe of it, and you're looking around at the changing rooms thinking, think of all the players who've been in these changing rooms and on this pitch. And then you're walking out onto the pitch and you're thinking, look at this is where you used to see all your heroes playing football. And I think that was tough the first time. I mean, we still gave a good fist of it in the game, and we should have won it with the chances we had. But the second time we went, I think we were more prepared mentally. I think the mind was on the game. We'd been round, I'd say on the Thursday, most of us went, looked at the changing rooms that we'd be in, knew when we got off the bus where we were going, exactly which changing rooms, where we were coming out, what we were going to do. The mind was just on the game. And I think that's a lot in football, obviously the mental side of it. But you do, if you don't do that sort of bit of it, especially the first time we went, I think you do think, like on the Thursday when I went to look round, you think, wow, look at this. And you look at the seating, I mean, 90,000 seater arena where you look at Saltergate and you think, a little bit different to this. And the playing surface is always immaculate. But it was a dream come true for me. And you do think everything's bigger. The nets look bigger at Wembley because they've got those big back stanchions, the iconic back stanchions on them. But the nets look bigger. We still managed to put 2 in there to get through in that game anyway.
And now we'll hear from Andy Morris and Tony Lormor and their memories of the day, including Tony Lormor's revelation that game was actually one of the worst he ever played in. And then that game at Wembley then. So did the defeat against Cambridge kind of help you out when it came to playing there for a second time? You knew it a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. We'd been there before. We knew what the ground was like. Most of us, like the full Robinsons, he'd played at Wembley a few times with other teams, and so yeah, it was. But like I said, we had a really, really strong team that year. We had a team of winners, and we had a team of tough, experienced players and tough ballers in that team, and. But they were a good team. They're a decent team, and obviously we were fortunate to win because I'm not too sure they had any more chances than what we did. We had the better chances, and I think come near the end of the game, I don't know how many times Kevin missed. He must have missed at least 3 in the last 10 minutes, and that. So just by screwing his shots and overrunning it or having a bad touch and stuff like that. But yeah, you kind of like knew what was going off, and you knew how the game was going to flow. And we had a long throw thing which we got the first goal from. I think we got actually it was 2 goals from 2 long throws actually.
I think they're both long throws.
Yeah, there was one came through. Actually, it won't be allowed now because I think it hit my hand. So went up for an header and it hit the back of my hand, and then it just killed the ball. And I think that was that Tony Lormor goal.
That might be his, yeah. I mean, he says it was like the worst game he ever played in.
Well, yeah, it probably was. And then the next one, I think Nicky threw one in, went up for an header, and it cleared both me and the centre half. And I always thought to myself, right, if I can't get an head on it, he's not going to get an head on it. So it's going to stay in the box kind of thing. So that happened. Then I think it bounced over one head and Paul Robinson just came in and headed it into the corner. That was 2-0. And obviously, if you remember what Chesterfield football team was like them days, nobody was going to come back from us from 2-0 up. So like I said, we were just a strong team. We knew how to see games out. We knew how to do a mid block with the team, even though at that time nobody had ever heard of a mid block and stuff like that. But we could do it as a team and as a squad, and we defended from the front and just made it very, very hard for them, and came out of that with a good win, and the celebration was a lot better than the one when we lost 2 years before.
I'd say I bet the ride home was a lot better.
Oh yeah, it was pretty special. Like I said, the one before, I think we had a function room, and seriously, it was like a morgue. If it wasn't for John Ryan just having a bit of a laugh and a giggle, I don't think anybody would have enjoyed themselves that day. It's horrendous, horrendous. So I understand why people never book anything until they've actually won something, because doing it when you've lost is just it's not great, really.
And I read somewhere where you said that the playoff final game was probably the worst game you ever played.
Honestly, yeah, it was awful. I remember. So what we did was, obviously we get through, and John Duncan was meticulous in how he wanted to do things, you know. So he said, right, this is what we're going to do. We either, if we stay overnight, we stay for 2 nights, or we go down the morning of the game. And he had this theory, which I think a lot of people do now, is one night in a hotel doesn't do you any good, really. So he either said, we'll go down for a couple of days, or we'll go the morning of the match, you know. So obviously the senior players had said, we'll go down for 2 days. And then and we went the day before, we went to Wembley to have a look around, so we were in starstruck and stuff like that. So so we prepped for it unbelievably well, and then we started off, and Bury were brilliant. Do you know what I mean? The first 20-25 minutes, and I couldn't get hold of the ball. Every time it came up, it kept coming back. And I remember we had a corner or a free kick, and Nicky coming up for the corner, I think it was. And he went, "Is there any chance you can just keep hold of the ball for 5 minutes?" He says, "I mean, they were peppering us." And then and I just tried, and every time it either bounced off us or I lost the header, and then obviously we got the 2 quick goals, which sort of settled us down, and I probably took the wind out of the sails of Bury. And I think if you look at chances at the end, we could have won by 4 or 5-0. So yeah, it was really strange. The lead up to the game, I was nervous. That was probably the nervous I've ever been for a match, only because I think we had a squad of 14, maybe 16, and I think 10 of the players were out of contract. So there was a lot riding on that one game.
Yeah.
And then you've got things like playing at Wembley. You know, ultimately, it's a game you've got to win. Careers and livelihoods are on the line, you know. And I enjoyed the final whistle. I've seen something that day. I played probably the best part of 75, 80 minutes, and honestly, I just remember being awful, you know. And I just thought, I was just fortunate. Even the goal itself, do you know what I mean? It wasn't a great strike, but it was a half volley with my left foot. It could have gone anywhere. Robbo could have been offside, and there was lots and lots of things around it. And ultimately, the gods were looking down on me that day.
Yeah. And then when you get back into the dressing room, then are you just thinking, is it just relief? You're just thinking.
Yeah, it was massive relief. And then I remember someone saying, "Oh, referees give Robbo the first goal." And I remember going in and going straight up the referee's room and saying, making sure, you know, I'd got the first goal, really. I remember sat outside the referee's office. I'd knocked on his door. And then we went down, obviously downstairs, and was chaos, but a good chaos, and everyone was going mad, and we had a few drinks and all that, and then what was it? And I remember Norton Lee came in and he said, right, he says, I'll take you on holiday, you can go anywhere in the world. And I went, Barbados. And he went, right. And 10 days later, we sat in Barbados.
So there we are. That's the 1994-95 season and that playoff victory at Wembley against Bury. If you'd like one of the commemorative scarves to support Tony Lormor's Brightside CIC, then all you need to do is go to etsy.co.uk, that's etsy.co.uk, search for Legends of the Spire, and you'll find them on there. I've got 100 of these to go, so once they're gone, and I hope you like them. I'll see you next week for another episode of Legends of the Spire. I'll see you then.